Today I want to talk about Azure pipelines and how to run a simple pipeline with Azure DevOps. I will use a YAML based pipeline that builds a Docker file and pushes the image to Docker Hub. So if you want to follow along, you will need a Azure DevOps account, a Docker Hub account, and a Git repository with a Docker file in there. Let's go. Here is my repository where I have a script, super simple script in Python, and some requirements. Very ugly, I know. And I also have a Docker file which is using a Python-based image. It's copying all the files from this repo, installing the requirements, and then running this Python script. And what I want to do is that every time I push code to main, I want this Docker file to be rebuilt and then the image to be pushed in Docker Hub. So this is what our pipeline will do. And we can go to Azure DevOps, pipelines, and we can create a new pipeline. Here it asks me where my code is, and it's on GitHub. I just need to select the repository here. Now I don't have any pipeline yet, so I will use this starter pipeline, which okay, it's running my job on this Ubuntu machine and it's just displaying some hello world, but we will configure this later. We click save and run. So here what it's saying is that it will push this YAML file directly to my main branch in GitHub. So I say yes, save and run. All right, and here we saw that it was automatically triggered. So this job started running. And if we go back to our repo and refresh, then this YAML file was created. Yeah, and now I can just pull it, or I mean, I can change it here, but I would like to change it in my IDE. And if we look back, we see that the job is already finished. And yeah, now let's go and customize it to do what we wanted to do. We are in the IDE and let's pull this YAML file from main. What we want to do is to replace these scripts with some other tasks which are building and pushing the Docker image to Docker Hub. And if you're new to pipelines, then this is a good moment to check the documentation because they explain there the key concepts. So if you just type in documentation, Azure pipelines, then here you can read more about the key concepts, but the point is that I want to talk about is the tasks, because here, depending on what type of tasks you want to have in your pipeline, Azure has some inbuilt task options. So this is the list, and yeah, you see I already checked it here, but yeah, because if I want my tasks to be something related to Docker, then I will probably choose this Docker type of task. And here you have the syntax that you should use for this type of task. So with this, we go back to our pipeline and we start customizing it with the help of this syntax. In our case, things are quite simple because we just want to replace these steps with some Docker steps. So let's start with the first one, which is gonna be the task of type Docker and the name that we want to display for this task, which is gonna be build. Then I'm specifying the inputs for this task. So let's start with the repository, which is gonna be my Docker ID and yeah, let's name this app. Then the Docker file. The Docker file is the app Docker file, and the build context. So where do I want to take my code from when building this Docker file is the root. And maybe I want to give it a tag, which is latest. Next, I want to have my push task. Oh, I need to be careful at the indentation. So we have two tasks, one after another, and they should be aligned. Otherwise, it's gonna complain. All right, this was the push. And here I need to specify the command push. Let's add this to our repo. Oh, I don't know how to type. Docker steps. Okay, so now we have the code on Git, and to run the updated code, we just go to run new and click run. After a bit, I see that the pipeline failed, and we can see some details about why that is the case. And we see it says request access to the resources denied, which means that we have to give access to Azure pipelines to the Docker Hub in order to push the image there. And to make this possible, then we need to define a service connection. And we do that by going to settings and then service connections. And here I create a new one, Docker registry. I think this is Docker Hub. Docker registry. Here I choose Docker Hub, and for the Docker ID, I just specify my name. And here I put my service connection name, which let's name Docker Hub connection. Now we can go back to our pipeline, and we define the container registry where we want to push the image to. So here I'm going to use the same name that I gave to the service connection. So Docker Hub connection. And I'll do the same in the other task. Let's see if it's working now. Here we will allow this connection to be made. So here we see the building which started this time, so everything is going fine with the service connection. This is gonna take a while, so I think I will just fast forward through this part. In the meantime, I wanted to show you something else, because here we see that we are repeating these variable names, which is quite error prone. So something nice is to use variables here that we can just specify throughout the code. So let me make a variable for this repository. So let's say it's image repository. Then the way I can access this variable is in the following way: the cache sign and then parenthesis and then the name of the variable. So I can just repeat that throughout the code. Then I will do the same for the Docker file name. And then the same for the Docker registry service connection. Let's see what happened in the meantime. After a long time, the pipeline ended and it successfully finished. Here the image was built and pushed to Docker Hub. We can double check it in Docker Hub. Yeah, we see that the last app image was pushed 3 minutes ago. And in the description of the runs, we also see that this happened automatically whenever we push to main, so that's exactly what we wanted to do. And yeah, we can make the pipeline more complex, but this is a good start if you're just beginning with the pipelines. That was it. I hope you learned something new. I hope you have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.